don't know why it does that. Okay, we're gonna do that. You can, if you wanna see everybody, you can. She is waving to you. All right. Sandra Richardson, a dual American-Australian citizen, combined her communication and education degrees from CU Boulder with her passion for adventure, travel, and creative exploration to pursue numerous careers. In 2021, she published her first magical realism novel, Splinters, a modern mythic journey, available on Amazon. Currently, she's working on Splinters 2, In Search of Ancestor Giants. She devotes her days to duties as the founder-director of the NOMAD Foundation Museum, open by appointment, presenting her collection of art, antiques, and textiles amassed during her 50 years of traveling. And today, her topic is defining our concept of God our Father, or infinitely more. Go Sandy, Sandra.
Okay, hi everybody, thank you for being here. Can you hear me okay on Zoom?
Yes, they're
Okay.
nodding yes.
Okay, I can't see you. Actually, I'm having a little trouble seeing much of anything, so bear with me.
Can you fix it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was a little bit befuddled when Jenny told me I was speaking on Father's Day and she'd like me to include fathers in my topic. And she didn't know this, but fathers are really not my area of expertise, since I never really had one. My father took off when I was 3. So, my earliest memories of the whole issue of fathers was involved those excruciating elementary school father-daughter day banquets where I would arrive and sit alone. However, divine intervention came to my rescue in the form of Science of Mind daily reflections to give me a topic for today, which is a bold new concept of God. I'll just read you a bit of this that struck my imagination. The new thought concept of God desperately needs an upgrade, so there is no more anthropomorphizing. Wow, that's hard to say. Making God look like a human, which keeps God separate and a distant presence versus the very presence of all that we are. So that got me to thinking that on Father's Day, maybe we could explore the definition of Big Daddy, God the Father. So just to get you thinking along these lines, I'll give you some personal experiences of my journey with the image of God. It has certainly gone through some transformations over the years. Later, when I was an older child, I was introduced to the idea that I had another father. And this came via the Presbyterian Church, where God, my new father, was an old white guy with a long white beard who was very stern, very judgmental, a bit vindictive, punitive to say the least, demanding, and a little bit scary. And I thought at the time, wow, I don't think he would have been much fun to take to a father-daughter banquet. That was supposed to be my little joke. Then later on in college, I discovered women's lib, and patriarchy became my enemy. I found it stifling and something to rebel against. And Father God was kind of a part of this. and world history classes just heightened my resentment. Where did all the goddesses go? What happened to the divine feminine? So I made a decision. If the feminine could be fired, so could the masculine. I looked around me, and the US and the world were in an unfair, violent mess. So I ran away to Australia because it seemed to me that there was really no enlightened oversight in the world. So I basically stopped believing in God at all. However, things change. In my 40s, I became a member of a recovery group that assured me the only way I could live a happy, sober life was with the help of a higher power. And every other word in their teachings was God. So here we go again. But they gave me an inkling of something that has to do with this talk. They said that I could believe in a God of my understanding, that I could virtually create my own creator image. And apparently God had not given up on me, because I gradually changed to believe quite strongly and rely on a loving entity who cared for me and really wanted to help me. Then in 1994, I moved to Taos from Australia, and things really changed when it came to spiritual beliefs, because I got involved with Native American traditions. And I really, really resonated with their idea of God as Great Spirit, not contained in a human form, but in everything, without limits. And that this Spirit connected all of us in a saying. They have this saying, Mitakuye Oyasin, which basically means all are related, and by this Spirit, including plants and creepy crawlies and winged ones and four-leggeds and two-leggeds. And like my Celtic ancestors, they also included as an essential part of their beliefs the divine feminine in the form of Mother Earth and Grandmother Moon and Sister Mother Ocean and many other female forms. So this has become my current concept of God, a creator God, the Great Spirit, that is in all forms and connecting all. And on my travels through India, which I did many times, Hindus I met expressed a similar idea when they would greet you by saying Namaste, which roughly translated means the divine in me honors the divine in you. So, I also just recently saw a documentary where I learned that the word Elohim, the word for God in the Hebrew Bible, is apparently not a singular form, but plural, which is kind of interesting. So I hope that's given you something to think about. In summary, my concept of God has evolved from the Father to a divine being contained in a form that isn't a human-looking male father figure, but something much more, something ancient that involves pre-Christian beliefs and loving, benevolent, masculine and feminine energy that manifests in all forms and is an essential part of all that is. So I'd now like to open the discussion because I really want to hear what you think. And if you are still happy and love the traditional concept of God as our Father, feel free to share why that works for you. And if you don't believe in God at all, you can share about that too. So, I look forward to hearing what you have to say.
It's a big topic.
Big Daddy.
Yeah, if you wanna get the mic, if you're
Come.
gonna
Oh,
speak,
Or
then,
come up to
yeah,
Shall I-
either one.
no, I just.
Let's pass it around, that makes it easier. I understand the concept of, dad taking care of everybody and making the money and, that projecting that onto the divinity being. And if people are into that, that's great. Basically, I just think whatever people think is all right. Like, we're all so different. Of course, we're all gonna have different experiences of the divine, And so I like to give room for people who are into that. I'm not personally, but, I didn't have a super cozy, loving dad. He was a great provider, but I had a loving brother, and I've seen really good dads in action, and that is inspiring. So basically, if people are just loving each other is kind of my groove, but yeah, it's kind of fascinated me and been a little bit out there, like really? Okay, if that's working for you, go for it. That's been my experience with the Father God thing.
I
Anybody
think Zach
else?
wanted to something.
Well, the male god, where did we go wrong? It seems to be the root of all of patriarchy, this idea of a masculine god. And that is really damaged culture for 6,000 years. It's hard to comprehend the damage that patriarchy has done to humanity. And this idea of a vengeful, angry male god is also such a misunderstanding of masculinity, that masculinity has taken this form of toxic masculinity. That's what masculinity is? I don't think so. And so I'm super happy that we're in the world, we're challenging these traditional ideas, and I think a lot of people are with you, Jenny, in this idea of just loving each other is more where it's at. I can't think of another explanation for this domineering masculine image of God, except that in the early days of civilization, men are just physically stronger, so they dominated and created this theology of a masculine God, that male physical strength created this pattern of domination. Of course, women have kinds of strength that men couldn't even comprehend. And so I love to see the rebirth of how would you say, male and female together, androgynous God.
Well, I think if we read through the Bible, whoever wrote it, it constantly reinforced through Jesus' words, Father, why have you forsaken me? That those words really like a spear in my heart, that God would be so unforgiving and so demanding. So I wish someday that we could be shown the Dead Sea Scrolls and everything that's locked up in the Vatican, so we could read and learn the truth.
I think that I like looking at the different pagan traditions for models of masculine deity that are not the same thing as this kind of all-absorbing Borg god of the Abrahamic religions. Must absorb and crush everything else. One true God. But in various pagan traditions, you have other models of divine masculinity. So, like Odin, the Allfather of the Norse mythology. Among the things that he's done, he hung himself on the tree of Yggdrasil in order to gain knowledge of the runes. So he didn't sacrifice. Like Jesus hung on a tree to for the whole blood and sin and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Whereas Odin made the sacrifice in order to gain knowledge, so he provides us an example of knowledge seeking and being willing to go, the full length for knowledge seeking. Loki in the Norse tradition did all kinds of weird stuff, like turning into a mare and giving birth to Odin's 8-legged horse. There's that would cover kind of open up to the LGBTQ people, that you don't have this strict polarity of male over here, female over there. It's much more, it's a spectrum. Other male like Hanuman is I think is a really neat, interesting male deity. He is all about loyalty and service and loving for Ram and Sita. So he's a strong warrior, but also kind of a trickster and there's a humorous element in there. Like Coyote's another one that kind of has a trickster and humor. So there's various other archetypes of masculine divinity that we can look to that provide us a more multi-dimensional view of what masculinity can be and ought to be, rather than this crush, smash, obey.
Yeah, thanks for including all of those. It's good to know that, there are other ones.
So I belong to a tradition that tries to stop conceptualizing God, that sees God as beyond concept. And the trick is to understand that soul exists because God loves it, and you don't need to know anything else. That knowledge leads to wisdom, and wisdom leads to truth, and God is that. And so we don't need to struggle so hard to define what God is, because we can't translate God into any kind of human language. So that's sort of where I come from.
Nice.
Anyone on Zoom want to chime in?
No one's unmuting. So we shall carry on.
Okay.
Let's go to Michael.
Well, carrying on, I want to start strictly on the question of the divine. What is that? And I'm so far away from patriarchy and that God is all. I mean, it's everything. The feminine, the masculine, the trees, the rocks, the universe. It's all the divine. When I do an invocation, it has an indigenous kind of a base, but it's creator, great spirit, great mystery. And I've added great magic. And for me, great magic is manifestation. And we are the magic. We are the magic. And So I think that it's, if you say God is all, I mean, that kind of summarizes that. Going back to patriarchy, Kuan Yin is, in many cultures is feminine, but it's also in many cultures it's masculine. And that kind of, to me, it indicates the masculine and feminine need to be in balance. I know Greg Braden at our conference in 2012 talked about the last 5,000 years have been patriarchal, and manifesting war with walled cities, mass graves, with the injuries indicative of warfare. And 5,000 years before that, it was the goddess, and there was no warfare. When he spoke here a couple of years ago, 5 years ago, I asked him, and I said, well, what's the latest? And he said, it's cyclical. The 5,000 years before that, it would be patriarchal warfare. But to me, that's a positive, saying that it's our choice. What do we want to be? Do we want to be warlike? Do we want to be peaceful? And we have to make a choice. So I think that's the bigger picture of patriarchy, is we each have to take our position, if you will. I'll be speaking July 21st. My working title is What is Beyond Forgiveness and Gratitude? And I think that the answer to that is part of what we're talking about. It would be love. And if you start with that as a base, then it's hard to say, I want to kill someone else, or I want to dominate someone else, or whatever. And when we say Shikya, that's the same thing as Metakwioyasin, but that's Apache. So the indigenous cultures have a lot of ways of saying we are one.
I started out as a child in a pretty non-religious family. My mom didn't care if my sister and I went to church at all. My dad was brought up Catholic, but he was just done with it. But he wanted to introduce my sister and myself to something. So we went to the closest church that we could walk to from our house, was the Dutch First Reformed. And so my sister and I went every Sunday at my father's insistence. He said, it is my job to introduce you to this. And then by the time you're 18, you can decide if it works for you or not. My sister rather continued, and I walked away because it didn't work. But at that age of 18, I didn't really know why it didn't work, but I knew it didn't really work. Some of the Bible stories were amusing and fun when I was a child. But I'd say today, especially with the influence of being in Taos for 31 years, when I walk into my backyard every morning and talk to the trees and the rocks and the animals and whatever, it is, we are all one. And God is in everything and everywhere, and it doesn't matter what you call it, if it's the Great Spirit, if it's Wakantanka, if it's God, if it's whatever. So that is what I've evolved into, and that's what's comfortable for me. Do you have something to say? Anyone else have something to say?
No, you go ahead. And I'll go after, if there's time.
Yeah.
Mine's short.
Every day in my life when I wake up, sometimes before I even go to the bathroom, I have to say the Lord's Prayer. It's just that way. And it's always, in probably 40 years of hanging out in Unities, it's moved it to Father, Mother, God, okay? And every time anything comes up in a prayer, it's Father, Mother, God. I don't see God as a person. I don't see God as a thing. I see God, if I could see it, as all the energy that creates everything we know of. Every single thing in this room is energy moving around. And somewhere out there, or somewhere in here, I'm not really sure yet, maybe a few more 100 lifetimes down the road, I'll get it. There is an omnipotent power that balances all that out for every one of us and everything. And you can rely on it. You may deny it sometimes when you don't agree with it, but you can rely on God. And that's where I stand on it. So thank you.
Thanks for sharing. I think Mamie wanted to.
Okay, I'll keep mine short. I grew up a Southern Baptist, a very strong Southern Baptist, until I went to college. And I started taking courses in philosophy and Kierkegaard and Nietzsche and all. And I started actually thinking for myself and, questioning what I believed. And about my third year of college, I lived in Lee Summit, the headquarters for Unity. And I attended there, and I was just amazed by everything I heard. And so I've been in Unity since the late 60s. It's given me a lot of strength, a lot of support. I believe we all have masculine and feminine qualities within ourselves. Most people would acknowledge that. And I raised my 2 daughters pretty much without fathers. And this Father's Day, I feel a sadness about that, because everybody needs to have a father. I mean, not just our Father God, but an earthly father. And it did impact both my daughters. But I always told them, I'll be the best mother I can for you, but I can never be your father. And my own father was a great influence for them, and we lived close to him, and I think they gained a lot from that. But I'll end this by this prayer that I always tell myself: God is my help in every need. God does my every hunger feed. God walks beside me, guides my way through each and every day. Many have forgotten to do it final words. But I've just been in Taos a couple of months, but I find a lot of strength here, a lot of peace, and I had to leave my daughters back in Austin. They have their careers going, but they kind of understood the need, and it's my 7th retirement. And I'm just real happy to be here, and I want to spread the word and see more people come here, because there's a need, and people have a need for sharing their philosophies, and also I want to bring to this church my love for children. And I did this before I came here to New Mexico. I was kind of their Sunday school teacher. And I only had 3 girls, but I have a whole container full of wonderful activities, both oriented toward unity and most of it oriented toward just the psychology of what children need. And we see children are in need of a lot of support and help. And our schools are not always able to provide that support.
Yeah.
They're becoming more what would you say, standardized into what you can say and what you can't say in school.
Well,
So-
we're glad you're here.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yay, welcome to Unity.
Bring the kids here.
Yeah. I love how everyone's concept of divine has evolved and changed, and that we're constantly doing that, because everything in life is constantly evolving and changing. And so I am heartened, and it gives me great hope that people can find what works for them in a more expansive view. I like that.
Thank you. Well, that was really, really great. Thank you for getting me through a Father's Day topic where I was feeling very insecure. And namaste to all of you. I definitely see the divine in you. and it melds with the divine in me. Thank
Thank
you.
you too.
Thank you, Mamie, for mentioning the prayer of faith, because we have it in our hymnal on page 78. I thought we could all sing it together. There's actually 3 verses of it, because I love this song. God is my help in every need. God does my every hunger feed. God walks within me and guides my way through every moment of the day. I now am wise, I now am true, patient and kind and loving too. All things I am, can do and be through the truth that is in me. God is my health, I can't be sick. God is my strength, unfailing quick. God is my all, I know no fear. Since God and love and truth are here. Thank you for reminding me of that beautiful song. And we're gonna sing our love song. Now there is
is love
on
on
earth
earth
and
and it has begun
with
with
me.
me.
Now
Now
there
there
is
is
love
love
on
on
earth,
earth,
the
the
love
love
that
that
was
was
meant
meant
to
to
be.
be.
With
With
all
all
our
our relations,
relations, loved all are we. Now I walk with my family in perfect
harmony,
harmony. Love
love
has
has
begun
begun
with
with
me,
me,
and this
and
is
it's
the
the
moment
moment
now.
now.
With
Every
every
breath I
breath,
take,
let
let
this
this
be
be
my
my
joyous
joyous
vow.
vow.
To
To
take
take
each moment and live each moment in love
eternally.
eternally. Now
Now
there
there's
is
love
love on
on earth,
and
and it has begun
with
with me.
we are the
The
light, the
light of love and the
presence,
presence,
wherever we
wherever you
are,
are,
love
love
is,
is,
and
and
all
all
is
is well.
well.
Yay.
Thank you, friends, for being here together and being open to all the possibilities of it. Love you. Ready,
Love you too. Yes.
ready?